All right, guys, welcome to this very exciting interview. We have an amazing opportunity here to speak to Alex and Mikael from Zoink Games and the actual the team that's putting together and pulling together Flipping Death. So very early morning for both of you. Thank you very much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's 6:30 a.m. here, so we're kind of tired, but we hope to have some interesting things to say nonetheless.
Sure, absolutely. Hopefully a big pot of coffee is brewing in the background as well. So
yeah, I don't drink coffee actually, so I'm in
a little bit
position.
of a tea person or anything at all in the morning.
I just have water.
Water, there you go. Okay, excellent. Okay,
I'm working on my coffee, so yeah.
Nice.
That's fair enough. Absolutely. So let's jump into Flipping Death. Now this is coming out eventually for multiple platforms, but this is a tremendous looking game, and I know this was showed off in the Indie Showcase back in late February, right before the release of the Switch. And I wanted to ask you guys maybe what that experience has been like working with Nintendo and developing on the Switch, because this looks like an absolutely gorgeous game. And I'd love to kind of hear what that experience has been like.
Yeah. Oh, Mikael, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's been a great experience working with Nintendo, and announcing at the Indie show was amazing for us as well, because I mean we're still we're 25 people at Zoink Games, but we still kind of consider ourselves small indie developers. So getting highlighted on a Nintendo show that early in the Switch life cycle was pretty cool for us and pretty huge for us.
Yeah. And
it really helped us getting the game out there. And I think like in this early time of the Switch where there aren't that many games, it's getting a quite unusual game out there like Flipping Death is really cool. So it's really helped us.
Yeah. Yeah, and Nintendo has been super supportive all the way through. And the Direct was so helpful. Mikael and I went to PAX East earlier this year, and nice. I say like 90% of people who have seen the game have seen it on the Direct, so that was really huge for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
It definitely feels like I remember watching it and immediately thinking like, oh my gosh, this is like Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, like sort of Tim Burton claymation sort of style, and immediately I was like, oh wow, this is special. This is really cool. So, like, tell us a little bit about the game and like what is so what makes you so excited about it? Because I can tell already, just sort of the excitement behind the game and the passion. There's so much passion within indie developers, and sort of my experience as well.
Yeah, I think like the one part that's most exciting for Flipping Death for me is like the script. Actually, we can't show that much because we only show the trailer, but there's so much crazy things going on in the script, and so much fun characters, and so many weird, bizarre things happening in the game, which is really, really cool. We're like past mid-development now with Flipping Death, so like most of the chapters are in there, not all of them yet, but there's so many crazy characters. And it's a whole script being written first and foremost by Klaus, our creative director at Zoink, but we also get a little help from Alex as well on the team, and a few others on the team. But then we have help from Ryan North, who wrote Stick It to the Man, which was a game we made a few years ago.
He's so great.
Yeah, so it's like Klaus comes up with the main idea of the chapters, what's going on with the characters, and then Ryan North comes in and actually like adds, that quirky, unique, weird humor which he's known for. So yeah, the humor part is the thing I'm most excited for Flipping Death.
Yeah. I really love the characters and how we work with them in this game. If you compare to Stick It, we had lots of characters there as well, but this time they're a bit fewer, and they come back a lot more. So like they won't just turn up and disappear after a puzzle is done. So in Flipping Death, you play in this little village called Flatwood Peaks, and it's kind of a little bit like Metroidvania style. So you unlock more parts of the city as you play. And say that you meet a police in the beginning of the game, but you can't really use him for anything. But then maybe a couple of chapters later, you get a puzzle where you're like, oh yeah, here I should use the police, and then you can go back to find him. So that way you also get to know the characters a lot more because they're always there hanging around in the city. I know Klaus has said a lot of time that he wanted to create kind of a Simpsons feeling, like it gets funnier with time because you already know the characters and you're like, oh, that's so him.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that.
That's really cool.
Awesome.
And I definitely, like just as I'm kind of rewatching this trailer too, like, so you're so almost like possessing different objects or different things like that. Like it's got one where the guy's like trying to hold on to his ice cream and running around and all that kind of stuff. Tell us a little bit about the mechanic and sort of, what you can tell us about that and the inspiration behind that and sort of, just the mechanics of the game, I guess.
The inspiration is quite fun if you played our last game a previous game, Stick It to the Man, because in Flipping Death you play on two sides. You have Flatwood Peaks, which is the land of the living, and you have the other side, which is the land of the dead. So it's basically like a cardboard stock that you can flip around and see the other side on. So it's the same shapes, but the house can be a monster and stuff like that, depending on which side you're on. And that actually came from the development of Stick It to the Man, where we had like this actual cardboard stock for a background and all the characters and stuff. So some people on the development team were talking about hiding Easter eggs in the game, and someone was like, "Oh, maybe we can paint something on the back side of the world, so that if you flip it over, there's something else there." And that was the idea that eventually became Flipping Death. So that's quite fun.
That's very, very cool. The aesthetic, and I want to give credit to where this question is asked. We have a member of our community, Tim, who asked this question, but the aesthetic reminds us, and Zach mentioned before, very much of like a Beetlejuice, Nightmare Before Christmas, Tim Burton influence-esque. Is that, and obviously you referenced Stick It to the Man earlier, and I would agree that art style kind of mirrors there. Is there some of that influence? Is that direct or just kind of happenstance?
Yeah, I think Klaus, I know Klaus is very much inspired by Tim Burton. Like, not only the way he creates his unique art style in that sense, but also the way Tim Burton creates an entire world filled with different weird characters. That's kind of the style we're going for in Flipping Death as well, because as Alexandra mentioned, you spend a lot of time in the city because it grows and it opens up new areas throughout the game. So the more time you spend with the characters, the more you get to know them. And that is also something Tim Burton does really well. He creates this fantastic, weird worlds filled with interesting characters. So yeah, especially Corpse Bride, which you mentioned before, but also Nightmare Before Christmas as well. So yeah, Tim Burton is definitely an inspiration.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You were mentioning kind of before that development and that script, and obviously, you mentioned Stick It to the Man. You're wearing, Michael, I see you're wearing a Zombie Vikings shirt, a good plug there as well for another Zoink game properties. How long does a game like this typically take from kind of idea inception all the way to kind of being pushed out to the masses for consumption?
How long was Stick It in development? Do you remember, Michael? Is it like?
I think like 2 years. The game's been in development. I think too long if you'd ask our CEO, because I think you shouldn't work. I personally think you shouldn't work on a game more than 2 years, because after that you kind of get tired of it. So maximum 2 years, and I think we kept that for both. The previous games we made are Zombie Vikings and Stick It to the Man. Both of them were around 2 years, and now we've been working on Flipping Death. Well, Flipping Death is, as Alexandra mentioned earlier, we did the prototype for Flipping Death back in 2014. And that early prototype we had lying around, but we did with Zombie Vikings instead. But after Zombie Vikings came out, which was late 2015, early 2016, we picked that up, but we totally remade the whole prototype again. And the development now for Flipping Death, I think it's been a little more than a year, if I'm not wrong, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it's so around 2 years for each project. So it takes forever, but I would say it would be awesome to say that we've increased development speed so that we make the games faster, but we don't. I just think we add more stuff to them.
Well, and I guess as a little bit of a spin-off question to that, I mean, as Zoink Games has kind of been increasing their games that they've been putting out, they're becoming more of an established quantity for games, right? More of a unique flavor of games, such unique IPs and stories. Is there maybe takeaways that you've noticed between the games, like lessons learned, that's helping develop either the next game or help get a game published in that context as well?
Oh yeah, sure. With Zombie, we're not shy to talk about it. With Zombie Vikings, we had some issues at launch because we had an external deadline that forced us to release the game before it was ready to be released. So there were lots of bugs in there, and that affected our earlier reviews, which was hard, and we don't want to go through that again. So this time we've been much more careful with release dates and just promising too much, because we've been doing that as well earlier, promising dates for different platforms and then not being able to keep up with it. So we're not just holding back on the release date to be mean. We don't want to disappoint people, and we also want to have the time to decide for ourselves when the game is done and how much time we need to fix it up and make it really great. So that's definitely something we're working with this game.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it. And again, being somebody who's totally not in the industry at all, but I see a lot of the really big studios, right? And I'm thinking, even looking at Nintendo recently with Breath of the Wild, where it took how many friggin' years for that game to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, Michael, you said 2 years, but I think those Breath of the Wild developers are crying still.
That's a different kind of.
Well, yeah. Well, it's the scope is so much, but like thinking about companies like Blizzard too, where they're notorious for just like it's done when it's done, right?
Yeah.
And I imagine, is that something that you have to kind of learn as a studio to almost have those boundaries of be like, no, you know what? I know that everybody's excited, but we're putting this here because this is what we know is important, is to have that quality be before anything else. Is that something that you've kind of come to eventually, or was that what are your thoughts on that?
It's a good question. I think besides Flipping Death, we're also working on another game called Fae, if you want. Mm-hmm. It's like a 3D open world, very much inspired by the old school 3D platformers like Super Mario 64 and Spyro and games like that. And I think that game is actually being published by EA, so we're using a really big publisher for that. And that game is it's coming out when it's coming out, but it's more, since we're using an external publisher, they kind of set the rules for that. We were following their deadlines, and they make up their release schedule and the plans for that. And Flippin' Death is our project kind of on the side, although it's a huge project and we're really committed to it. It's also the project that we're, as Alexandra mentioned, we're going to release it when it's done, and that depends kind of on when Fear comes out as well. So we're in a luxury position at this time where we have two games almost want to come out on the same time, but we can't release them on the same time because there's vastly different. Flippin' Death is this crazy humor game, and Fear is this more atmospheric 3D platformer game. So, yeah.
So I'm gonna ask the question, and maybe it was announced and I've completely missed it. Is Fae going to be coming to the Switch?
We haven't announced any platforms yet for Fae, so but we hope to release this on as many platforms as possible. So of course, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Sure,
Another one of those, don't want to promise too much in case it doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of kind of your sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I also wanted to add lessons learned that we Zombie Vikings had co-op 4-player online mode.
Oh, wow.
And online mode was something we added mid-development because we started out like a coach co-op game where you just sat down with your friends in the sofa and played. And then mid-development we were like, let's add online multiplayer. How hard can it be? And it turned out to be
so easy.
Very, very, very hard. So we kind of learned that if we should do another multiplayer game or an online game, we just need to think of that component from the day one. Like, it's not something we can add mid-development or a week in or 2 weeks in. We're just going to need to design it as an online game from the start. Mm-hmm. And I think personally, we're not going to do online games like for the next couple of years, if I can decide, because I mean, Zoink Game it's an artistically driven company. Like, all our games are like focused on artwork, storytelling, and it's not tech oriented. Like, we can program games, but we weren't used to doing a huge online game. So from the lesson learned part, we're probably not going to do more online games.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And that's also to the question of what we learned and stuff, and regarding to the release dates, it's kind of the same. Like, in the beginning, you just want to shout at release dates because it's fun and people are asking for it and you want to give it to them, and you just blurt them out there, and then you realize, that maybe that wasn't that good because now it's delayed and people are angry. And it was kind of that feeling we had with the online as well. But it's going to be fun and people are going to like it. We didn't really think of the consequences of adding it that late in the project. So we just try to be more careful with stuff now.
It's almost like there's a release date, and the release date is really exciting for about the first couple of days. And you're like, oh, wait, now we hit that release date. Crap.
Yeah, exactly.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, well, and I think kind of going back to what you were saying, like just with Zoink Games being set that with your artistic, with that artistry and that style, and sort of, almost that sort of attitude that comes with that being such an important part of the DNA of the company. I think that's, kind of falling back and really focusing on your strengths. I think, from what I'm seeing of Flipping Death so far, I think it looks like it's paying off. So. Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I just watched the trailer for Fade 2. Yes, that needs to come to the Switch. I'm going to say that right now. That looks freaking amazing is what that does. But definitely to your point, Michael, I think you're mentioning, like, you definitely get like a kind of Spyro vibe from some of that. Banjo-Kazooie, that old platformer. Yeah, that's amazing, actually. That's got to come. In relation to your... I guess the development and Zoink again as a company, we have seen this insurgence or increase in and I want to use it poorly. I know some people are upset by the use of it, but the indie developer, right, of smaller development companies. You're not EA, you're not the Activisions, not the massive ones. We're seeing such a resurgence or increase in games from that. Now, and if you go back to the Nindies event. Right, how many games were released there? Why do you think there is such a thriving or a hunger for these smaller studios to create amazing content like that? What is it that's driving so many people to go there?
That's also a good question. I think, like, first of all, the word indie is such a broad term. It's like if you ask 10 people what indie game is, you almost get 10 different answers because. We're 25 people and we're working with EA, so in that sense we're not indie at all. But at the same time, we're doing Flipping Death, which is our own thing, and we can release it whenever. So in that sense, we are independent. But I think like the rise of independent developers the last couple of 5 or 10 years is that it's vastly changed how easy it is to actually get a game out there. I mean, getting a game out there on Steam, for example. Like 10 years ago, if you got the game out there, you were all set because you had your fortune there. But now getting a game out on Steam is so much easier, but it's also you compete with like thousands of other games. So the digital part of releasing indie games totally changed the landscape for how easy it is to get a game. I'm not saying it's easy to make a good game. It's still really hard to make a good indie game, but it's easier to get your game out there on an actual platform. And even Nintendo, like, recently remade their whole publishing platform, so now it's easier to work with that platform as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask a little bit about that. We'd heard, through the grapevine that the Wii U was quite challenging to develop on and to be able to get out some of the games. And the rumors that we're hearing now is that is definitely not the case with the Switch. And I guess, are you able to speak to a little bit of kind of that? The difference that you're noticing in the development platform as well?
Yeah. As for us, we're working with Unity as a game engine, and it didn't really run well with the Wii U. It was a challenge working with that. So I know Klaus said recently that when he met Nintendo to talk about Switch the first time, one of the first things he asked is like, how does it work with Unity? And they said like, oh yeah, it's a lot better, and it's gonna be great. And it was. It's much easier to work with the Switch. We're not having near as many problems with that, so that's made a big difference for us.
That's great, excellent.
Yeah, and since both Fe and Flipping Death are multi-platform releases, we're going to release them on like the big platforms. We're as this part in development, especially for Flipping Death, we're not building the builds like the actual games we put out when we're trying are not specifically on any platform, because Unity is so easy to build on each platform. So sometimes we build on the PS4, and sometimes we build on the Nintendo Switch, and sometimes we just do a normal PC build. And it's little few things we need to change actually. So compare that to when we worked on the Wii U a few years ago, that was vastly different as well. So it's much more easier to get the game out there. And Unity has increased in, I mean, so many people, especially in developers, are using Unity these days. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I think actually that question was already asked there. Zach, other questions that you've got, sir?
No, I think that just about does it. I think it's as far as sort of your again, just what are your? I'm just interested in your thoughts on the Switch overall, and kind of having seen it come out. I mean, for the indie scene especially, one of the things that I'm noticing is for myself, like, yes, there are those big titles, Breath of the Wild comes out and Mario Kart comes out or whatever, but in between, like the Switch came out like 2 months ago, something like that. I have almost 20 games on my Switch because I'm constantly like, oh, what's on the eShop this week? Okay, like here's this cool indie game. I'm gonna play that. And it's so, at least my experience has been that it is so it is so friendly to those smaller games where, because you're taking them with you, because all of those sorts of things. It seems like the perfect place for those smaller size games. Like, sure, those AAA titles are going to be out there, but where do you see the Switch, both like short term and long term, kind of falling into the whole gaming world? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I really hope that it's gonna continue down this indie road. As I said, the Wii U was hard to work on technically, but also Nintendo weren't near as indie friendly with the Wii U. So I feel like they're really taken to what their fans want to see, and really cranked it up a notch, giving them lots of indies and working with the indies and being really generous with help us market our games and stuff like that. So for me, it's like, I really want to see lots and lots of indie games that you can just pick up and take on the go. So I really hope that that's something that we're going to see a lot of.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alexandra. There's a lot of good games indie games out there, and it's a lot of them are coming in to the Switch as well. So yeah, I think we're hoping for a good, stable indie future on the Nintendo Switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's awesome. I actually have two questions for you. Pretty simple and a little bit of fun. First one I'm going to ask you is, what are you guys playing right now? Other than probably playtesting Flipping Death and anything else you're playing, but for your own leisure on any device, what are you playing?
I'm actually still on Zelda.
Okay.
I'm not finished with that yet. I have a 1-year-old at home, so right now my time to play games isn't vast. So
yes.
And also I do, like, as soon as I find a side quest, I can't just go on without finishing it. So it's going really slow.
Yeah, I have like a queue of side quests that I said I'm not going to Ganon until I have the queue of side quests emptied out first.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just keep adding to that list. And I'm like, I'm not going to be done this game for a long time.
And by the time you do finish it, then the DLC will be here. And so
yeah, exactly. So that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm playing 2 games, well, almost 3 games actually. But I started World to the West, which came out on multiple platforms a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's from some friends to the studio called Zoink Games. They're Norwegian, so we support them. It's like a top-down Zelda-esque game, and I played like 3 or 4 hours. I played yesterday, and it's really good so far. you use 4 different characters which you switch between, and you solve different puzzles and stuff like that. They each have unique abilities, and I think it's coming out to Switch, but I'm not sure actually. But I think it's coming to Wii U as well. So I think it's one of the few titles coming out to the Wii U.
Yeah.
And yesterday I actually played Wonder Boy Dragon's Trap on the Switch.
Yes.
Which I've been, I wanted to play that since it came out, but I actually didn't get around to buying it until yesterday. But it's absolutely cool so far, and the art style is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Final question, and I'm seeing, Michael, I'm actually seeing a Nintendo tattoo on your arm. So obviously
Yes.
you have probably been branded or lived and died into this environment. So this may be a big question for both of you, but I did want to point that out. It's a great tattoo.
Thanks.
Our member of our community, Tim, asks this question. We asked some of our community put forth. Tim asks, I think this is a great question. If Nintendo asked Zoink Games, or I'm going to say you, to develop a game about one of their established characters and gave you the choice, which one would it be and how would it play? This looks like this just blew your mind, Alex.
I was like, think fast. So many things to choose from.
Well, on the top of my head, let's say let's take Luigi, because he doesn't get that much love, and throw him into Flippin' Death is an adventure platform game, but let's make a traditional platforming game, but with the weird Zoink art style, and put Luigi in it. I think that would be cool.
That would be sick.
Like a Luigi's Mansion side thing, with this art style. Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yes.
I love it.
Well,
I love it.
So you're confirming that that's coming in 2018. Yes. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm confirming. If I get my will through.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm a real fan of Animal Crossing, and I really love the gallery of personalities you got there with all the little characters. So actually, I think it would be really fun to do like a puzzle game with those characters, where you actually get to know them a bit more and use them for different puzzle things, like a Flipping Death style, stick to the man 3D puzzle world. Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, there's so many weird characters that you could really get to know and flesh out. All sorts of weird jokes that you could do with it. Totally, I totally hear what you're saying.
I don't know who's gonna be the main character though. It's like, gonna have to think on that one.
You could dive into like the real dark sort of. Tom Nook has a lot of dark implied stuff on there with weird financial stuff and. Yeah. The seedy belly of.
I think Tom Nook is pretty much a mobster.
Yeah.
In like a V-neck sweater is what he is.
Definitely. Yeah.
Oh, Jesse's saying Rossetti. Rossetti would be enough.
Yeah, Rossetti.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I definitely want to know more about him.
Yeah.
His backstory is very unclear to me.
That's awesome.
Well, hey, thanks for your time. Justin, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same. Thank you so much. I know, again, it's bright and early for you guys, so I appreciate you guys jumping on this. But before we kind of, depart, please tell all of our audience where they need to go to check out either you, the company, the games, everything that you do, so that when Flipping Death comes out, we can make sure that they're pointed towards that direction and are downloading it right away. So I guess this is kind of a great opportunity to promote what you're doing.
Yeah. So we're on Facebook, of course, Zoink Games, and Twitter. That's our most active platform, Zoink Games as well. We also do every other week we do a video, posting it on YouTube, and that's also Zoink Games. Very easy to remember. And if you want to follow me, it's That's Great Alex on Twitter, and Michael.
Yeah, I'm Michael Forslund on the Twitter as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just my name.
Perfect. Excellent.
Simple.
Simple. Excellent. Well, guys, thank you again so much for making your time for this. We are excited to be playing Flipping Death in the future. We're very excited to be playing it, and thank you guys so much. It's been amazing.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
No worries. Enjoy that.
Getting us up in the morning. Now we have lots of time to do other
things. Either that or like the rest of us heading back to bed. So one of those two things. Excellent. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.